Hello, my name is Roger Watson and I'm the module leader, and welcome to Quantitative Methods. Thank you very much for taking the module. I hope you enjoy it and I look forward to working with you on it. I just want to tell you a few things here about the module. I'm going to show you a couple of presentations later. One about the Module Handbook and two about creating a blog, which as you'll see is part of the assessment for the module. The module is taught online and asynchronously, which means that all of the material is delivered through a virtual learning environment, and we will not meet face-to-face or at the same time at any point. However, this doesn't mean to say that I'm not available to help you by email if necessary or on the discussion board on Canvas. And also, of course, you can be in contact with one another, and I hope that you will work collaboratively. The module is delivered by means of podcasts and YouTube presentations and links to other material. In fact, all of these links are available through the handbook. You don't have to go to the online learning environment unless you want to take part, as you should on a weekly basis, in the discussions. The module takes you from some fairly basic concepts in quantitative methods, such as probability and measurement, and then proceeds to go through other aspects up to some fairly high-level concepts, like multivariate statistics. You don't have to worry about learning the details of everything along the way. You're not going to be examined on it. You're going to do an assignment and a weekly blog. However, some of you will know more than others, and some of you might struggle a bit. I'm here to help, but I hope that you will also help one another. I've mentioned the assessment for the blog. One part is an assignment, which is an essay. It's very straightforward. You'll be given it right at the beginning, and you can start on that at any time. That's worth 50% of the assessment. The other half of the assessment is a weekly record that you will write on a blog. Just short entries telling me something about what you've learned, something new, giving me other information. You'll be given guidance about how to do the blog, and you'll soon learn, and I will give you feedback as you go through, and you can continue to update the blog right until the end. So next, I'm going to take you through a couple of presentations, as I've said, one on the handbook and one on how to create a blog. Once again, thanks very much for taking the module, and I look forward to getting to know you and interacting with you over the next few weeks. I want to introduce you now to two aspects of the module. First, the Module Handbook, and then Blogger. The Module Handbook is clearly titled. I'm going to skip quickly through the first few pages until I get to what I really want to show you. There's a page of contents, there's a welcome to the module, my contact details, and a teaching timetable with all the dates of the weeks when the material needs to be approached, and then finally the teaching program. That relates to each of the sessions above in the timetable. So each of these has a session title. This one's the introduction to the module. If we skip down, the next one is measurement and prediction. Each of these has exactly the same layout. A title, the member of staff teaching it, which is me throughout the module, the aims of the session, the learning outcomes, the indicative content and the learning and teaching strategies, and then some relevant reading and some directed references. That's highlighted there because I'm still preparing this particular version of the handbook. Under the learning and teaching strategies, you'll see various hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are areas which, if you press Control and click, will open up a web page. So here there are links to podcasts, and this podcast tells you how the module works. There's a link to asynchronous learning. Then there's a YouTube link, another introduction to the module. There are links to things to do and self-directed learning, and these take you to blogs. For example, if we click on the podcast, it opens up my podcast page, and you just play the podcast. It should play the podcast, but you won't be able to hear it in this particular presentation. Okay, then take a look at the asynchronous learning. Click on that and it opens up a Wikipedia page which tells you all about asynchronous learning. Next, the YouTube link. Click on that and it opens up YouTube, and you can play the YouTube. Again, you won't be able to hear it in this particular version of the presentation. That's me, and that's an old version of the YouTube. Then things to do takes us to Blogger, and you need to double click on this. So that opens up my blog and to the things to do for that particular week. The blog is called Quantitative Message Things to Do, and every week there's an entry, and it's exactly the same for the self-directed learning. Remember to double click. And it takes you to the self-directed learning. That's a separate blog with entries for each of the weeks. Under the relevant reading, there isn't always a link here, but there are links in the introduction. One to how to set up a Google account. You'll need that if you're going to set up Blogger, which is the next step. If you have a Gmail address, you will all automatically have a Google address. There's a guide to creating blogs, and I'm going to take you through that later as well. Then there's some material about online social networking to keep you safe and to keep you out of trouble. Most of it's common sense. And finally, a link for instructions to installing SPSS. You're going to need this for some of the later exercises. Click this and it will take you to a connection to share. There you need to enter your username and your password, and it takes you to another page, and again you've got to enter those details again. Enter them again and it takes you to the page where you can download SPSS Statistics 24 for Windows or a Mac if you're using a Mac. You'll have to go to a separate link for Mac, but you'll find it down the toolbar at the side. If you do run into any problems, I strongly recommend that you go to the Applied Sciences building and go to the inquiry desk for the ICT department. They'll be very helpful there. You can also email them at helpdesk@hull.ac.uk. Every session follows the same pattern. There are various links that you can click on. I'll just quickly run through all of them just to show you that. All exactly the same. All of it, by the way, is available through the handbook. You don't have to go to the Canvas site to access the material. And then finally, on page 21, the module assessment details. And here there's a podcast about the module, gives you the details of the assessment, gives you the submission date, and it also tells you how to submit it on Canvas. In this session, I'm going to look at creating a blog on Google. Google Blog is sometimes called Blogspot or Blogger. It's the same thing, and it's available within Google. And you need to have a Google account. As I said, if you already have a Gmail address, then you automatically have a Google account. And in that account, you can find all the facilities such as Gmail, YouTube, Blogger, and other facilities. In this presentation, we're only concerned with Blogger. Open it up, you'll know if you're logged in. There's a login at the top right. I've got a picture there that shows me which Gmail account I'm into. This is the Faculty of Health Sciences one, not my own one. And the easiest way to get to the blogging facility is to type in Blogger and return, and that takes you to blogger.com. Click on that and it opens up the blog. Now that's a pre-existing blog, the faculty blog. You won't see entries under yours. Go to the top left where you won't have a blog. You just go to your blogs and click on New Blog. Opens up that window, and here you can create a new blog. Give the blog a name, a simple one for this one called Quant Methods. Give it any name you want, but it's probably best to have one that makes sense. And then you need to create a URL or a web link to it, and you give it a name under addressed, and it will suggest what it's going to look like. I'm going to call it my Quant blog. If that's okay, it'll be called myquantblog.blogspot.com. If you enter that, it'll tell you whether the domain is available or not. That means nobody else is using it. You can create the blog then if you want. There's a default template, but there are other templates. You can use any one you want, and you can play about with that, and you can always change it back and edit it if you need to. Create it. Ignore Google domains. This is an attempt to get you to pay for a very specific domain. You don't need that. So this opens up the blog. The first thing to do then is to do a posting or an entry in the blog. So I suggest that you create a short entry about yourself, include some information that you want to share with others, and it's always nice to have a photograph, not compulsory, but it's nice if you do. Press New Post, and that opens up the area for creating an entry for a blog. So remember, this is an entry. I want you to create new entries in the same blog each time. Don't create a new blog each time. So just stick to the same blog. And create one entry for every week. So every post needs a title, so we'll call this one Week 1. And I'll write a little bit about myself. My name is Roger Watson. My name is Roger, and I work in the University of Hull. Just for illustrative purposes, there are lots of things you can do here. One of the useful things you can do is to give it labels. These make it easier to find online if you make the blog available for finding online. Put in, for example, for this one, your name, comma, University of Hull, comma, and then quantitative methods. You need to do this for every entry. It doesn't cover the whole blog, it just covers each entry. And if you do that, it then gives labels which make it easy to be found online. You can schedule them and you can do all sorts of things. You don't have to do any of that. I really wouldn't worry about any of that. All I really want you to look at here is the top bar where everything you need to create the blog is contained. You can change the font as a default font, and you can change it. You can make it different size, make it bigger, go back to the normal size. You can make different parts of the blog different sizes. It's sometimes nice to make the first few lines a bigger size than the other parts of the font. You can make it bold, in italics or underlined, and you can scroll through it if you want. You can change the text color and the background color as well if you want to do these things. And there are other important things you can do here. One very important thing is to put in a link. Try not to put in raw URLs. Try to create hyperlinks. So if I want to create a hyperlink to the University of Hull, so if somebody looks at the blog and says I want to find out more about the university, the way to do that is to go to the landing page for the University of Hull. And you go to the Hull website and copy the URL. Go back to the blog, highlight University of Hull, go to link and enter the link there, and that creates a hyperlink. If you hover over it, you can see the address for the University of Hull, and you can also see my email is. And it's r.watson@hull.ac.uk. If I highlight that and press link, it creates an automatic link. I can also remove the link. I can put it back in again. Another thing I can do is put the link in at my name. But you need to do this differently by putting in link and putting email address and typing in the email address. r.watson@hull.ac.uk, press OK, and then people hovering over that will also get my email address. So just a neat thing to do. Makes the blog easier to use and less clumsy looking with email addresses and URLs. Another thing you can do is to insert pictures, and I usually get them from Google Images. So get a picture of a university. Doesn't happen to be the University of Hull. Drag it onto the desktop, go back to the blog, and you can insert pictures using the picture facility and finding them. Much easier simply from the desktop to drag it in. Then there's of course various things you can do here. You can change the size, make it bigger, small, medium, and back to normal size. Move it to the right and you can enter a caption. That tells you what it is. I like pictures in blogs. They make them more attractive. It breaks up the text a bit. Don't worry too much about getting them off Google Image. There's not usually a problem with copyright. People worry a bit too much about it. Then you can preview it by pressing preview, and that's exactly what it will look like when it's published. It shows you where the hyperlinks are with blue text. Then you can go back and publish it. Press publish. You see it under your list of entries in the blog. If you go to view, it shows exactly like the preview. And this one, of course, the links are live, but what you can do here is to copy that URL, and you can use the URL to send to people. You can send it to your colleagues. You put it on the discussion board, send it to me if you want to. So it's very easy to share. However, you should share the generic blog name with everyone, and all I need is that generic name, and then I can look at all your entries every week. If I've got that link, I'll keep it and I'll check up weekly. So please share that with me when you've created the blog, and I'll tell you if you've done it properly. So I'll close that. I'm going to delete that. I don't want to keep that entry. I'm later going to delete this whole blog because I'm on the faculty blog. It's not my own one. I'll delete that later. But before I do that, there's a few other things you can do. You can change the theme and the layout. By all means, play about with that. Some very interesting things you can do, but don't worry again about that. But go to the settings, and here you can, for example, edit the name. You can put in a description of the blog, and you can also change the privacy settings so that it won't be found if people are searching idly online. That's entirely up to you. I wouldn't worry too much. It's most unlikely people are going to find it if they're not specifically looking for yours. And if you're sensible and don't put up anything that's going to get you into trouble, there's nothing at all to worry about. You can edit the blog address, but I wouldn't do that, and don't buy a domain. That's unnecessary. Don't worry about things like HTTPS. You don't need to know anything about that. And there are other features below that you can edit if you want to, but you don't have to. What I'm mainly interested in is seeing a weekly entry from your blog. That's how to set up Blogger. Very simple. You can't do anything wrong. Ultimately, if you have a big problem, you can just delete your blog and start again, or delete the entry and start again. There's plenty of instructions online and in the handbook, and if you run into problems that they don't help you with, then don't hesitate to email me. Thank you very much.